This time last year, I had an idea for a song, and the song that came from that idea was my song, On Paper. Now, when these anniversaries come up, there's a tendency to look back at that time and think about how things have changed. And obviously I think a lot has changed in the last year, but in a strange way, this time of year, right now, feels exactly like it did. It was very cold like this, it was snowing on and off. We were sort of just getting into the new year and getting used to it. And it's strange that, isn't it? Because my life couldn't be any more different to how it was this time last year, but still, I can associate with what that time was like. Now, when I look back at the second episode of A Song in 7 Days, which is obviously the episode that On Paper came from, I feel like it's the first time I was able to tell you a story. I was able to tell you about my process, from the start of the song right through to finishing it, and all the little nuances that made the song what it was. But, as with any story, there are obviously things that I didn't tell you. So, if you like, you can call this one of two things. One version is A Song in 7 Days, Director's Cut. And the other version is Secrets of a Song in 7 Days, which has probably got far too many S's in it. The second one's probably slightly more clickbaity, but it's up to you. Either way, there are definitely things that you don't know about this song that I do. So over the course of this week's vlog, I want to tell you the full story of On Paper. So strap in, we're about to hit 88. Let's go back in time. Terrible. Watching this vlog really does bring back quite a few memories, actually. The first thing to say is that the room where I am, where the windows are behind me in that opening shot, that was Tim's room in Exeter College, and it had this fantastic view, which you also see in the video as well, which looked out on Turl Street in Oxford, and it was just beautiful, and I knew that I wanted to film in there. I knew I wanted to open the vlog there. So Tim kindly let us film in there, and I think in that shot, I think Lizzie was actually framing the shot with the DSLR and sat behind, and obviously Tim was laughing at me because I was still getting used to vlogging, still getting used to talking to camera, so he was trying to hide the fact that he was laughing in the background. I'm trying not to sound really boring.
Right, you can't sit there.
Good luck.
You can't really sit there. You're either gonna have to
like lean forward.
Yeah, lean.
Like
that's fine.
So it was just a hilarious experience all round. But the obvious thing about this is the fact that I do actually jump cut away from something. So there's a sentence that I say in this, which is basically along the lines of, but this love song is going to be a bit different. And then suddenly I cut, and the sentence doesn't make any sense. And that's because the thing that I cut out from the middle of that was this. With it being Valentine's Day this month, I figured I'd actually write a love song of some description, but it's probably going to be a little bit different. I've decided to write about my experience of using dating apps like Tinder and things like that, and kind of make it into quite an interesting ballad with a sort of throwbacky vibe to it. Now at the time that felt kind of personal. It felt like something that I didn't really want to share, but now I'm really not that bothered about it. It's one of these things where actually I think it adds another layer to the song, and when you listen back to the lyrics now you won't hear it in the same way, because there were certainly lines like strolling through this lonely place, which were actually meant to be like scrolling through this lonely place. And yeah, it's not a hugely... I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a few of you had actually already worked that out, particularly seeing as it was written around Valentine's Day and stuff like that. And that is what modern romance is about, really, isn't it? It's about this whole dating culture. And I wanted to write a song about it. But at the time I cut that out, which is definitely a common theme in A Song in 7 Days. When I started doing the episodes where I was meant to be more honest, like Time to Tell the Truth and stuff like that, like, this vlog is seamless. It looks like this song came out of absolutely nowhere. And it looks like it was just inspired by me saying I want to write a love song. And this is just one of those little things that shows you that there was a little bit more to it. And there was definitely a bit of struggle with it. And this was one of them, that it was inspired by my experience of using dating apps. And because I was doing it at that time, I figured I wanted to talk about that experience in song form. You know, we write about what we know, and this is definitely one of those examples. And like I said, you might be surprised by that, you might not. I've certainly told a few people this year about that, and a couple of them were surprised that that was what it was about. But this is one of my favourite songs from A Song in 7 Days, and it probably is one of the more honest ones, but you didn't know what the story was. So there you go, a little moment of honesty, if you like. While we're on the subject of history repeating itself, I'm making myself a prawn stir fry again. Just seems to be my Monday night meal now. Just like it feels like this time last year, it now also feels like this time last week. With regards to my productivity, I am doing my best to keep ticking off those things on that list, by the way. But as you'd expect, work and life always tends to get in the way of doing those things sometimes. But as I said, I've always got something to do. And tonight, one of those things is actually to put the camera down and relax for a bit. So our story will continue tomorrow. I'm gonna enjoy this stir fry and just chill out for a bit. It has been an extremely busy day here today. It's actually late afternoon now, and it's getting a little bit dark, as you'd expect at this time of year. Just to give you an example of the things that I've been doing today, I've been producing a podcast, I've been writing some original music for a new musical, more on that story later, and the day doesn't end there as well. I'm going out to do a little bit more work later on. But I've managed to find a moment this afternoon to talk again about On Paper and the story behind it. And one of the things that I do remember about it, when I was actually putting the soundboard together, trying to think about what it was going to sound like, and I'd got my Yamaha DX7 synthesizer out and things like that, it was really, really hard not to make it sound like an 80s song. And obviously, I actually put together a little clip of what it actually sounded like at that point. If you actually want to hear what that sounded like at that point, you can listen to it here. I think it's there. I'll get used to that. But yes, that was a legitimate thing. I actually tried so hard in the end to get it away from the 80s. And obviously having an 80s synth on it is going to make it sound 80s, that's pretty obvious. But some of the elements that I added to make it more modern, I think it did kind of push it out of that era. But that was actually a real thing. I did actually struggle to make it not sound like an 80s track, which is not hugely surprising considering that I was brought up on like Genesis and Phil Collins. Huge influences on me and my writing apparently. But yes, in the meantime, I better get back on with this work, but the story will continue tomorrow. As you may have gathered, I'm on a bit of an adventure, and believe it or not, I'm heading to Oxford. Me and Lizzie are going to see Maisie Williams tonight, the actor. She's doing a talk at Oxford Brookes, and we've got tickets to see that. I'm really excited. But isn't that awesome? A year on, and that ties in really nicely. So I get to spend the next couple of days in Oxford and reminisce. I'm just at the Watford Gap service station now. Previously mentioned in vlogs for being the place where the south starts. Having a cheese toasty. Then I'm going to get back on the road, and all being well, I should be in Oxford in about an hour's time. So we are now officially on our way.
We are.
I thought you were going to do like a thing then. I thought you were going to do the...
I'm just smiling.
Just absolutely smiling.
I'm just enthusiastic.
Of course. We're on our way to see Maisie Williams now.
We are.
Exciting.
Very exciting.
And did you say it was in the main lecture theatre at the JHB?
Yeah, the main one, the floating one. How does that work?
Brookes people watching, you know, it's the one that overhangs the building that looks really odd.
Yes. It does look odd.
Yes.
Cute.
Exciting.
Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Maisie Williams.
Wow, that was really surreal actually. I got to ask a question, I had a conversation with her, and she referred to me as, what would the...
Nice sweater or something, great sweater.
Snazzy jumper. Snazzy, that was it, I was going to say. She noticed the jumper. It was a great moment. But yeah, I had a full conversation with Maisie Williams, and I caught her afterwards and asked her a couple of questions about Casey Neistat. Apparently he's as lovely in real life as he appears. But there you go, wow. A bit of adrenaline actually, truth be told. But yeah, it was great to sort of be in that room, and she was really good. She was talking about a new app. But yes, now we're going to the pub quiz and we're going to win.
Yes, we are.
So it's good night from us.
Good night.
Now this really is a walk down memory lane. I used to walk here along London Road pretty much every single day for lectures back when I was here at university. And it is really strange actually. It's particularly strange to be walking down here and vlogging. This walk always seemed really long, but actually it's quite short, it's quite convenient. But yeah, I really do miss doing this actually. So that's the first big change. They're knocking down the old Union building. As far as I'm aware, they're turning it into something performance-based, which is great, but I used to gig in there. I used to gig in there with people. Fond memories. Really strange to see it being very gently demolished. Wow. But anyway, here we are. I have to admit, it was strange being back in the music department. I kept imagining my friends appearing in the various different rooms, and it brought back some pretty strong memories of my time at Brookes. I managed to find a couple of my lecturers too, which was lovely. It was great to catch up with them and exchange old stories. Liz and I went into town in the afternoon and visited a few familiar places, including, of course, Exeter College and the streets where we've filmed various different projects over the years. She insisted on doing this in every single wide-angle shot I took. I think of Oxford as the place where old and new meet. It changes constantly, but there will always be something there to remind me of a different time. The following day, we put our bags in the car and set sail for Doncaster. Once again, for a family event, just like last year. Isn't it funny how history always has a way of repeating itself?